Coming up on 400 miles on the Southern 500, how have we gotten here so far? Well, the usual pre-race festivities got us going. And then a big 6-car pileup triggered the afternoon that's been filled with cautions. Michael Waltrip, Rusty Wallace, Dale Jarrett among those involved. Starting with Jason Leffler made contact with Christian Fittipaldi. On the restart from that caution, Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin among those who got torn up. Then later on another restart, Jeff Burton running second gets squeezed by lap traffic. Got away with it. Matt Kenseth leading at lap 108, scuffs the wall in turn 2. He hasn't been the same since. He's running back in traffic now. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car broke, rear axles. Needed to get a push back to the garage. He's 9 laps down in 27th after repairs. Kurt Busch cut a left front tire, took him out of contention, then he got back on the lead lap later. Another 6-car pileup here. Jeff Gordon and Casey Mears tangled going into turn 3. Schrader and Benson involved. Jimmy Johnson was the leader at the time, tapped the back of Michael Waltrip, got away with things just fine. And Jimmy Spencer and Joe Nemechek with a little tangle off turn 2, sending Nemechek into a tank slapper. On the pit stops, Ryan Newman's car stalled. Couldn't get it restarted. He bumped the kill switch. Lost a lot of laps for repairs. Ken Schrader's hood came loose, brought out a caution when he caught the wall. Greg Biffle went by Kevin Harvick for the race lead. And now on the exchange of pit stops on this most recent caution from debris, Harvick taking the lead back from Biffle, and that's where we stand.
Other than that, it's been slow. Now, I got to imagine that Harvick would like to see this thing go green for a long time, BP. It seems to me that they're set up for the long run, but it's playing into Biffle's hands right now.
Yes, it is, because every 30, 40 laps, we're getting a caution flag. And we see Junior going by Harvick and Biffle trying to take the lead in turn 3.
Oh, Biffle right down on the flat below that broken line.
And he's got it. Biffle back to the front.
Look at this for third. Jamie McMurray on Bill Elliott. Got him. But maybe not for long.
Nope.
Veteran's discretion.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Got Jimmy Johnson up to 5th, Bobby Labonte, Terry Labonte 6th and 7th, followed by Elliott Sadler, Tony Stewart, and Jeremy Mayfield. 18 cars on the lead lap.
On board with Jamie McMurray, the third-place cars. He looks back at Elliott and squeezes down on the inside of Jeff Green. Jeff Green is, where, 2 laps down in 20th?
Yep.
Jimmy Johnson back up there. He's been kind of missing out of the top 7 or 8 spots for a while.
Yeah, he's fallen back some. Remember, they made that track bar adjustment, got the car too loose. And they've been working to make up some of that long-lost track position since then. And there's another one that dropped back a long ways. Bobby Labonte started 5th, dropped back as far as 22nd place at lap 101. But Bill, he's back up, trying to get into the top 5.
Just having a remarkable run the second half of this race, Alan. And the thing about it is, a lot of crew chiefs don't believe it's the strongest car that wins the race at Darlington, but the strongest driver. And Betty, you were there when we were talking to his crew chief, Michael McSwain, this morning, and Fatback said his driver is tough, has a body fat of about 6 or 7%. The day after that fiery crash in Chicago, Bobby went out and rode his bike for 20 miles. Friday morning, before he came to the track, he ran 5 miles. He stays in shape all the time. You can imagine how hard it is to race 500 miles here when you have a good car. But when you start off with a bad one and have to make it good, you better be in shape if you want to be up front at the finish. Great run for these guys.
I think that's one big difference in today's driver and the driver about 25 years ago. I don't think we did enough body conditioning. I don't think we ran enough, worried about our muscles. We just worried about getting the car around the racetrack. Today, they worry about that, and it shows by being able to run 500 miles here in this heat, really without any problem.
Well, anything that these guys can get a little bit of an edge on the next guy anymore, and that's part of it.
How about our Little Debbie lap leaders? Who's been out in front today? Well, the most time out in front has been spent by Ryan Newman. But the kill switch killed his engine on the pit stop earlier. He is now 8 laps down in 26th place. Jeff Burton spent a long time out in front. Then just had loose slug nuts, had to make an extra pit stop. Back at 168, hasn't made up his track position.
He's buried back in 12th spot, just can't weed his way through the traffic now.
Greg Biffle out in front. 3rd time today he's led. And now Matt Kenseth losing some more ground. Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven by him. How about Kurt Busch, Matt?
He entered pit road in the 8th position, Alan, but they had a slow stop. A lug fell off on the right rear. They lost time there. Restarted 16th. He is slowly trying to climb his way back up into contention. Currently 13th. 2 straight top 10 finishes here, trying for a third today.
Yeah, those guys were very close to being a lap down.
Well, they were a lap down.
Yeah, they were a lap down, yeah.
Yep.
So both those cars, Kurt Busch and Ricky Craven, go by Matt Kenseth, the championship leader. Kenseth currently back in the 15th position. There he is.
Just hasn't been the same since he hit the wall, leading it by 108. But the way the championship system works in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, it's how it's kind of like golf. What was that saying about golf, Benny, you like to throw out there?
It's how you play your bad shots. So it's how you finish your bad races rather than how many good ones you have.
Yeah.
I think this year Matt Kenseth's worst finish has been 22nd or something.
That's exactly right.
And all of his competitors have had finishes back in the 40s.
And the driver closest to him in the championship, Earnhardt Jr., is behind him on the racetrack now, having spent 9 laps behind the wall getting an axle repaired. Kevin Harvick is the one who stands to gain a lot of ground today as Harvick runs up in second. As they run, Junior was 351 behind starting the day. Harvick was 464 behind starting the day. As they go by Ward Burton, who has been a couple laps down since very early in this race. You see some damage to the right front of his car. How about championship leader, Matty?
Well, he's been battling a loose race car over the past 2 runs, and it is still loose, Alan. This team, like Benny said, they've made the best out of bad situations. They're going to have to try to pull off another one. And Benny, what was that stat we heard this weekend? 20 of 22 top 15 finishes this year?
Yeah, something like that, man. He has been phenomenal. But as Matt said, right now struggling with a loose race car, just can't get it tightened up.
Another car making a debris report that NASCAR is checking out. And I don't believe anything will come of it. Ricky Craven just ahead of Matt Kenseth there as they race for 14th and 15th. We can only hope we get a finish like they had in the spring race here when Craven and Kurt Busch came crashing across the start-finish line.
Was that unbelievable or what?
Yep.
Matt going up trying to use all that racetrack, trying to find some grip up against that outside retaining wall. Unfortunately, all that space has been used by all these cars. Ricky Craven, is he going to have a run like in the spring, Bill?
He's hoping, Benny, it's going to be a good battle to get back there if he does. They got a bad set of tires on their previous stop, and they'd adjusted for the car. So the combination of the adjustments and the tires just sent Ricky sailing the wrong way. So this set got a better set of tires, put the car back to where it was, hoping that he can work his way back to the front.
Ricky Craven is a New Englander. He's from Newburgh, Maine. That's a long way from Darlington, South Carolina. He cut his teeth on the short tracks of New England and was asked by reporters in a press conference the other day about the move of the Southern 500 from Labor Day weekend. And Ricky said that Darlington represents to NASCAR racing what Fenway Park does to baseball and what the Masters and Augusta National do to golf. He said there won't be 150,000 people here. And it's not $1 million to win, but this track has got as much history and represents perhaps more than any other racetrack what stock car drivers do. That's why this is an important race to win. It's what the sport is all about.
And they've been doing it since 1950 here at this old racetrack. The racetrack has changed a couple of times since then.
Whose car is that
I think it's
doesn't sound
Kyle
too
Petty's.
well?
I think it's Kyle Petty's 45 car that's
Sounding ugly.
Yeah, when he comes by the booth here, it doesn't sound too good.
He's lost his cylinder after a great run. There he is. Matt, cylinder gone, right?
BP back on lap 276. Kyle gave the team a big scary swerve like he was going to enter pit road, and the crew jumped on the radio and said, "What are you doing?" And when he swerved back, he said, "Sorry about that. Didn't mean to scare you. Just throwing up my water bottles." But then they got the big scare. He came on the radio and said, "We're down on 7 cylinders. It's not looking good."
It's too bad. They've had a decent day. Not great, decent. But when things have been as tough as they have been for the Petty Enterprises team this year, you know, you got to walk before you can run.
You look for decent.
Yeah. So Kyle Solzhenitsyn on last car on the lead lap in 18th position.
Well, there's a good chance that car won't see the rest of the race. Normally when it goes down 7 cylinders, other bad things happen.
There's something inside that engine that's floating around that's making things bad for all those other cylinders.
And it's usually metal.
The Labonte brothers racing for 6th and 7th. Terry Labonte came here as a rookie in 1978. Went into a rookie meeting. It's mandatory for all the rookie drivers at a track, and it was even a more elaborate rookie program back then. Terry said they showed a film of the previous year's Southern 500 and all the things not to do here at this racetrack. And the car that he was going to drive in 78 was the car that had done all the wrong things the year before and was featured in the highlight film.
Yes, I used to conduct some of those meetings with the rookies. I might have conducted that, as a matter of fact, with Terry Labonte in attendance.
So he said his goal for that Southern 500 was just to not make the highlight film for the next year.
That's what you try to do, is just scare those rookies to death and tell them how bad it was going to be and hope that they would not cause a problem.
Worked out okay for Terry. Finished 4th that day.
That's right.
In his Winston Cup debut at this track.
It's kind of like sitting and watching a bunch of airplane crashes before you go flying.
Exactly.
yeah, that wouldn't be too good, would it?
Elliott Sadler trying to get by Bobby Labonte. 7th position.
Yep.
And he does it.
Yeah, Bobby bounced off the wall on the backstretch 3 or 4 laps ago. No smoke, but the car's not as good as it was.
See Tony Stewart moving up to try to take the 8th position away from Bobby.
Well, he's been pretty unspectacular today, hasn't he, Stewart? They just haven't gotten up there and done a whole lot.
Bobby's really a lot of spots right here.
Boys, old Junie Darlington used to say, long-time veteran team owner. The story Ken Schrader likes to tell from his time driving for Junie, that was out on the racetrack and might even been here and bounced the car off the wall and then came on the radio a few laps later and said it's loose or it's tight or whatever it was, and Junie come back a couple seconds later and said, "Hey, you were the last one to adjust it." 67 laps to go. In the Southern 500, can Greg Biffle win this race in his very first try? You're watching NASCAR on NBC.